My name's Tom Healey. I joined the House of Commons Service 22 years ago. I've spent most of my career working for select committees that look at different aspects of government policy and expenditure. I've also done brief stints in the procedural offices which deal with proceedings in the chamber of the House, and I spent 3 years recently working in the Cabinet Office as Parliamentary Advisor.
I'm Jane Tinkler from the Parliamentary Office of Science and Technology.
So I'm Jessica Field. I'm a Humanitarian Affairs Advisor with Save the Children, but also a Research Fellow at Manchester University.
I'm Stephen McGinness. I am Clerk of the Public Accounts Committee in the House of Commons.
It's actually a really important point because often we talk about policymakers as sort of a big group and they're very, very varied. And it really is dependent on what policy area you're working around and the sort of the level that you're interacting with policy at. Something I think that's quite undervalued is working with local government, for example, policymakers in a particular area. And often universities have really great connections with policymakers in the local area, and you can really affect quite a lot of change at that local or regional level, and it's something that doesn't always get as much attention in the literature. That's a really kind of key one. Also to remember all the other stakeholders that are also trying to influence policymakers. So as I mentioned, think tanks, charities, community groups and businesses. So they're all feeding into policymakers things they would like to see and how changes that they would like to make. So also working with those other stakeholders I think is really important, because that's to understand sort of the full range of how policymaking starts, often with some changes that need to be made.
I don't think, from my experience, policymakers in an organisation are a specific category of person who has that job title and that's what they do every day. The kind of final product of a policy brief is influenced by a whole range of different people with different skill sets. There's
a big research community within government. So there are big sets of economists, sociologists, social researchers that are doing the same job as we academics are doing, but they're just doing that within government. And so there's a big profession there who are also really interested in engaging with up-to-date research that's going on and projects and PhD students. So to also remember that there's a real audience for academic research within government, even for those who are also helping higher up policymakers make decisions.